The rupees 370 biryani incident is not a moment. It is a mirror. It is not an isolated case of a stupid comment made at a comedy show. It actually shows clearly how Indian men are raised, how Indian entertainment rewards them, and how prevalent misogyny in India is. At a recent comedy show of PranitMore in Gurgaon, an audience member named Himanshu Jangra took his time to tell everyone that he had taken a woman on a date, spent 370 rupees on chicken biryani, and then expected sexual favors in return because उसे 370 रुपए तो वसूल करने ही थे. Himanshu reveled in the attention he was getting from all the males while he said this, and the male validation he was getting in that moment. PranitMore laughed. His joy and the ecstasy he feels in that moment is actually quite evident on the show. He called it, and I quote, peak Gurgaon content. The audience cheered and hollered when whatever Himanshu spoke kept getting cheaper by the second. The clip was then edited, polished, and uploaded to social media by PranitMore himself because he actually thought it was good content and will boost his social platform. When the internet pushed back, both men had to apologize. The National Commission for Women has summoned both of them, and Himanshu has lost his job. But here is the question nobody is asking loudly enough: what exactly did they apologize for? Read Himanshu Jangra's apology carefully. He said he used wrong words. He says that he got carried away and he should not have went to the show. He said parts of the story were improvised for the room for entertainment. At no point did he say I was wrong to believe that buying a woman a meal gives me ownership over her body. At no point did he say I understand that consent is not a transaction. At no point did he say my attitude towards women was the problem, not just my decision to attend the show. And this is the tell. The apology is about optics, not understanding. He is not sorry for what he believes. He is sorry that he said it out aloud, in front of a camera, in a room full of people who were laughing, and that it ended up costing him his job. The belief itself, that is still intact and still untouched. And then there is PranitMore, a comedian with 2 million subscribers who said he deserves hate and then explained that his audience views don't reflect his own. But sir, you clipped the moment, you edited it, you uploaded it to your Instagram because you found it funny and worthy of posting. The views of your audience reflected exactly what you chose to amplify, monetize, and distribute. You kept egging on Himanshu by asking him, फिर क्या हुआ? आगे क्या हुआ? The tragedy is that not one man in the crowd objected to this shit show. Men say disgusting things in private all the time and trivialize it as locker room talk. The tragedy is that the person holding the microphone, the person with the platform and the power, decided that this kind of content is actually worth celebrating, and that too publicly. He actually rewarded Himanshu. PranitMore did not create this mindset because it is not something new. But men like him package it, distribute it, and hand it to an audience of millions. Now the question comes, where does this mindset comes from? It does not appear from nowhere. It is built brick by brick inside Indian homes, Indian schools, and increasingly Indian entertainment. The fundamental problem with Himanshu Jangra's comment is not just the vulgarity, it is the economics behind it, which you can call the maths of the misogyny. In many parts of Indian society, men are socialized to view relationships not as a connection between two equal individuals, but as an arrangement where women are just subjected to men's desires and perversions. This perception often leads women to believe that men are incapable of genuine partnership. You spend money on a woman, therefore she owes you something. You pay for dinner, therefore you have purchased access to them. This is not a fringe belief. It is embedded in the language men use. Setting, vasuli. It is embedded in the jokes they tell each other. It is embedded in how they describe dating to their friends. And this is what I call maths of misogyny. And when you apply that logic to a plate of biryani worth less than 5 US dollars, you reveal something very devastating. You reveal how cheaply a woman's autonomy is valued in their world. 370 rupees. This is what she was worth to him. Now let's dive deeper into other important questions. Why did Himanshu say this in public? The answer is he genuinely believed the room would celebrate him for it. And he was right, they did. He was rewarded at the end. This is what happens when boys are raised to believe they are the center of the universe, pampered, shielded from the accountability, never told no in a way that meant anything. From childhood, they watch the women in their homes serve the men. They grow up emotionally illiterate, and when a woman eventually says no to them, it does not register as a boundary to them. Rather, they feel they are entitled to access to women. They go to their peer group, to the locker rooms, to the comedy shows, and then they perform for their male peers by demeaning women. Because in that world, degrading women is the currency that buys you respect among men. They have made the comedy stage just a locker room with better lighting. Now, some people will say this was just one man, one bad joke, one unfortunate evening. No, this is a pattern. And comedians with millions of followers are not just reflecting it, they are building it. Let us talk about Harsh Gujral. Harsh Gujral is the comedian widely credited with mainstreaming the phrase 6000 रुपए में तो रशियन आ जाती है, which sexually prizes foreign women as a punchline for cheap laughs. Now, Gujral's defense has always been that it is just dark humor, that people need to relax and his audience understands the joke. But here is what his audience actually did with it. In January 2025, a YouTuber named Mithilesh Backpacker went to Udaipur City Palace with his Russian wife Lisa and their 2-year-old son. He was filming a travel vlog and wanted to show the world how beautiful India is. And on camera, a stranger walked past and said 6000 rupees to his wife in front of his child. And that joke, the one Gujral is so proud of, has left the auditorium and has become a tool of street harassment. When I see Harsh Gujral, all I see is a man who built a career catering to the Chhapri crowd and told them their resentment was funny, relatable, and valid. In some of his videos, I see he is practically telling women to loosen their grip on their husbands and boyfriends and desperately compare modern wives to their mothers. Longing for that idealized, self sacrificing generation of women who suffered in absolute silence. But it's time women start asking the real uncomfortable questions. What do men like this actually have to offer the women they endlessly dissect in their monologues? Strip away the loud bravado, the internet podcasts, and the fragile egos, and what is left on the table? Nothing but textbook misogyny. They offer a transactional existence packaged as a partnership. They themselves can never compare to the affection given to the woman by her parents. They themselves historically haven't relinquished control over their wives or girlfriends. But I guess this kind of entitlement can only make you say shit like these people come up with. They don't have talent. What they do is not comedy. This is validation of a dangerous worldview dressed up in a plaid shirt. And then there is the case of so-called educated men. Madhur Varli, an IIT Delhi graduate who currently is a comedian with millions of views on his videos. A man India's education system held up as proof that it works. In his 2024 show Love and Latex, Madhur Varli made a joke. He imagined a grape survivor after being raped asking her rapist for a cuddle. And the punchline was that the attacker stabbed her. The audience laughed hysterically. He suddenly knew it was wrong when he started facing backlash. He said so himself when he finally apologized 2 years later. I understood it was wrong when it happened. 2 years. He had 2 years to take it down, 2 years to issue a statement, 2 years to acknowledge that joking about a woman being murdered after rape was not comedy. He stayed silent for 2 years, and only when the public caught up with the clip, only when Instagram became uncomfortable for him, did the apology appear. This is not remorse. This is just reputation management. What makes Madhur Varli's case so important to understand is what it tells about the illusion we have built around education in India. India reveres IIT graduates. They are treated as a class apart, brilliant, disciplined, worthy of trust. But no entrance exam tests your ability, your morality to see women as human beings. No JEE paper asks you about consent. No IIT curriculum includes a module on what you owe other people simply by virtue of existing in the same world as them. An IIT degree is not proof that you are a good person. It is not proof that you understand basic consent, and it is not a proof that you will not one day stand on a stage and make a joke about a rape survivor being stabbed and feel completely fine about it. We are told that India's most prestigious institutions train the sharpest minds in the country, and then you can see the specimens that graduate from those institutions. This is not a personal failure, it is a systematic one. So they all apologized. Himanshu apologized, Praneet apologized, Madhur apologized. Even Harsh Gujral has at various points issued vague statements. Let us be very clear about what these apologies are and what they are not. Watch the videos. Go back and look at their faces in the moment. Not in the apology, but in the moment when these incidents happened. Look at the joy, the pride, the electricity in the room when the crowd laughed and the comedian leaned in. And that is real. That is unguarded, and that is what they actually feel. The apology comes later. It comes when the job is at risk, when the cyber cell sends a summon, when the comment sections become impossible to ignore and the sponsors start asking questions. At that point, a press release is drafted. Words like I regret and I take full responsibility are arranged in a careful order. Social media accounts are deactivated not in shame but in strategy. You cannot screenshot what is not there. Himanshu said his story was exaggerated for the room. Praneet said the audience views don't reflect mine while uploading the clip himself. And Madhur said I knew it was wrong and said nothing for 2 years. These are not apologies, these are exit strategies. And I promise you, behind closed doors, in the next group chat, and in the next show in a smaller city where nobody is filming, these jokes will continue. But before I close, I want to say something that I think often gets lost in conversations like this. Not every man in India laughed. When this clip went viral, thousands of men spoke up on Twitter, on Instagram, in comment sections, and several men said, this is not funny, this is not okay, this is not us. Journalists wrote about it with clarity and anger. They sat down and spoke honestly about consent and what it means to be a man in 2026. Influencers called PranitMore out by name, and this matters. It actually counts. We must applaud the men who used their voices not to perform sensitivity for clout, but because they genuinely understood that a woman's dignity is not a punchline. The problem is not all Indian men, but the majority is suffering from this disease. It consists of the ones who were laughing in those moments, the ones who encouraged, and the one who uploaded the clip. and a culture that tells them that this is what it means to be a man and men will be men. In India, commercializing relationships is normalized. Men are socialized to view dating, relationships, and even marriage not as a mutual connection between equals but as an investment with a guaranteed ROI. The math of misogyny emphasizes that buying a meal, paying for a movie ticket, or giving a gift shifts the power of dynamic and transforms a woman from a human being with agency into a consumer good that has been leased for the evening or the night. The rupees 370 biryani case is not a joke that went wrong. It is a warning sign of a culture that desperately needs to strip its men of their unearned entitlement and start raising sons who understand that a woman's autonomy has no price. Until we stop making it funny, there will always be another Himanshu, another Pranit, another Harsh, another Madhur, and somewhere there will always be an audience that cheers for it. Thanks for sticking around till the end. I hope this essay challenged your perspective or at least made you think deeper. If it did, hit that share button because these conversations need to leave the locker room. Stay mindful, and I'll see you in the next video.